Joy to the Galaxy. I have a Grogu shirt. I've broken out my Christmas shirts. Well, I may have worn a Christmas shirt in one of the other videos I've done recently, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But Christmas. And Oda gave us a treat in this chapter, and I love it. He gave us such a great gift in this chapter. And it's kind of Christmas appropriate for, Christmas and New Year's, for, old Lang Syne, for, old friends coming back together after so long. And everything. And so, yeah. I have a new job, hence why this is going up quite a bit later in the day than it normally goes up, because I was at work. And I now work at a bird habitat store, wild bird habitat store, here in town. So that's fun. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm just on my feet a lot, but I'm learning a lot about birds. So I might end up having random bird facts in videos from now on. We'll see. I don't know. But we'll see how that affects video scheduling. If anything, it'll mean like the chapter reviews will go up a little bit later in the day or something like that, depending on how it lands with my work schedule, which is fine. I don't know how many of you are waiting with bated breath to see when my chapter reviews will go up, but for those of you who do, I appreciate it. For the however half dozen of you, how many half dozen of you that do, I appreciate it. So I really like this chapter. I am so glad that we got this chapter before the end of the year. We'll get at least one more chapter before the end of the year. It's supposed to be another one on the 23rd. I don't know if that will end up then being we'll get one a week later, just before New Year's. I don't know. We'll find out. But either way, we get chapters. We'll at least get one more chapter, hopefully before the end of the year. Going into the chapter, so we have chapter 11,033. And it is called Praise. I saw one of the translations was like praise me or something like that. Or like please praise me, which is, in regards to something that'll happen later on in the chapter. Tear-jerking moments in this chapter. But first we start off with not necessarily a tearjerker moment, but we get to start off with the cover page for Yamato's cover story, which is, of course, somewhere just outside of the Udon prison, I would assume. And now we're going to find out what happened to at least one of the Beast Pirate members. We see Hold'em is here. And Hold'em was, of course, the Beast Pirate, one of the, was he one of the headliners, I think, of Kaido's crew, because he was the one that was in charge of, like, Bakura Town or whatever. And he, had his men capture Tama because he wanted to find out why she's able to tame animals and everything else like that. So we have Hold'em here. He's the one who has the lion smile fruit, or one of the lion smile fruits, where he has, like, the lion in his stomach, and the lion likes to hit him in the lower regions, which is just funny because it just causes the lion pain, too. So we have Hold'em here, and he is holding Tama hostage. We see Speed off to the side, and she looks like she got hit with one of his fireballs, because for some reason the lion can spit fire. I don't remember why, but the lion can spit fire. And we see that Hold'em now has Tama, and he's holding her hostage, and he's demanding of Yamato to have Yamato hand over all of your belongings. Now, definitely, Yamato can very easily take out Hold'em. This is not in any form of a question here. One-on-one, Yamato beats Hold'em every single time. With a hostage involved, in the form of Tama, Yamato, of course, does not wish to hurt Tama, and of course, Hold'em already has a bit of a vendetta against Tama. So there's that. So we'll see what happens. I'm quite certain things are going to end up being just fine. But it just is, we'll see what happens here. Probably is just going to be, maybe Yamato's ice powers, maybe Yamato can use his ice powers to save Tama or something. Or someone will jump up out of the forest. The new daimyo of the Udon region will pop up out of the forest behind them and knock out Hold'em or something. I don't know, and save Tama. I still want it to be Kawamatsu. I still want the daimyo to be Kawamatsu. That hasn't come up in the videos yet, but I have a prediction that Kawamatsu will be the daimyo of Udon, just because he was there for so long. I know some people thought Nekomamushi might be the daimyo, but I'm like, Nekomamushi is kind of like hanging out with like the Yakuza. We saw him back at the Flower Capital, so he may not be there. But I'm leaning more toward Kawamatsu as the possible new daimyo for the Udon region, but we'll find out. So that's that. And then into the chapter itself. So we start off with a flashback. And it is 22 years ago, and we are seeing that this is related to the Ohara incident. And it's like, it's like, what happened at Ohara? It still sends chills down my spine. What a tragedy. The civilian evacuation ship suddenly burst into flames. And we cut and we see Spondine, who is, of course, Spondam's father. They're both horrible. Spondine is at least smarter than Spondam. To be fair, that's not saying much. He's also probably stronger than him. Again, that's not saying much. But we see Spondine is talking to a bunch of reporters, and of course Spondine was the CP agent, CP9 agent, who was in charge of going and taking care of Ohara when everything happened there, when they went to go and blow it up, and talk to the archaeologists. In giant, massive air quotes, because they were going to kill him anyway. And they're referring to the ship of civilians. It was the civilians from Ohara. And of course, we as the audience know that it was Sakazuki, or Akainu, who was the one who actually blew up the civilian ship in reasons of absolute justice, because there could have somehow been could have somehow been one of the archaeologists on the ship trying to sneak away, and they couldn't risk that, so Akainu blew up the ship. This is before he was an admiral, so it would have been Sakazuki at the time, and he's Sakazuki again, but Akainu, Sakazuki, take your pick. Refers to the same person. Possibly Hibari's dad, but you get the idea. So Spondine is telling the reporters about what happened, and it's more he's telling them the veiled story of what the government wants to pretend happened, the story they're feeding to the press. And we have him, and he's like, the mortifying screams I heard from that inferno is something I'll never forget. You don't care, dude. We already know this. And one of the reporters is like, and Nico Robin was responsible? To think she sank all those warships, too. It was like, she didn't sink the warships. The warships survived. They should have been fine. Yes, Saul was picking a couple of them up and chucking them around, but I don't think they sank all of them. That doesn't make sense, but okay. Also, in that regard, you get a lot of dead Marines now, which is not good. And then we have Spondine going like, she's a devil masquerading as an 8-year-old. So this is, of course, the story that they're spinning to the press, because they need to do something because of the fact that, Robin managed to escape. And, like, they clearly can't reveal the real reason why they were there was to blow up the island anyway. They had the whole story about how the archaeologists were actually trying to study this forbidden history and these horrible things so that way they could try to use it to defeat the world government and destroy the world or something like that. Which I never understand why there are villains out there that want to have, like, I want to destroy the world as, like, your motive for everything. I'm like, there are better motives, obviously. Destroying the world just means you now have nowhere to live. Is kind of how that works. But of course, that was the story that they spun to the press, that the demons of Ohara, all the archaeologists of Ohara, were going to try to destroy the world or something like that. And that's why they were studying stuff they weren't supposed to. Now, I do believe that it's okay for people to know that there are poneglyphs, but they're just not allowed to study them. It's like, it's one thing for someone to be like, well, yeah, I know that there are poneglyphs, but I'm not going to study them. I'm not an idiot, type of a thing. So it's like, there's that, but then there's probably other, there's Robin and there's other archaeologists and other people and stuff like that who have tried to study the poneglyphs, and in those cases, Robin currently is studying poneglyphs and things like that. So we're seeing like the old Marine headquarters. This would have been the original one that got destroyed by Whitebeard. We see that. And it's like they're sending out other agents, and like this is a bunch of the Marines and agents and everything else like that they're sending out to try to track down Robin. All of this in order to track down an 8-year-old girl that they still have not caught. And they only caught in the first place in Water 7 because she willingly handed herself over to them. And then they still didn't get to keep her because the Straw Hats still came and got her. So, you suck at this, and now she's survived 3 Buster calls. 3.5, 4-ish if you want to count what happened in Stampede, but that's not canon, so it doesn't count. So there's that. And, like, it's like, they're saying, I was like, we can't let the world know the full details. This brutal incident would traumatize children everywhere. I'm like, yeah, it would traumatize children because now they'd be worried that the government are going to show up at their island and blow up everything they know. All because some person did something they weren't supposed to, and now everybody has to die. So there's that. Going from there, we of course have it where a bunch of, it's just, more people are sending out more of the Marines and stuff like that. And of course, it's like, if you see her, just report it. Do not approach. So it's like, do not approach this child. They're just trying to make her sound more and more dangerous in this regard. Now, to be fair, there are certain people in regards to bounties and pirates and stuff like that you probably shouldn't approach anyway. Like, I wouldn't want to approach Doc Q because I don't want any of his apple bombs. Or him to infect me with some weird type of a disease. Same thing with, like, other people who are, pirates with bounties and stuff like that. I mean, like, well, yeah, but it's just like she's an 8-year-old girl, but they're going to keep twisting this. It's like later on they refer to her as like a demon incarnate in like the body of an 8-year-old or something like that, which is just twisted. And then we see, like, this old lady, and she's just like, I saw her. She had the eyes of a stone-cold killer. And I think this is supposed to be because at one point in time when we're getting a bunch of Robin's flashbacks during NS Lobby, when we're seeing, after O'Hara and when she's on the run and everything else like that, which we're going to see a lot more of that in this chapter. We saw, I think this might be like the same old lady who like had initially offered Robin a place to stay, and then she was just doing it to try to keep Robin there so she could then bring the Marines or the Cypher Pull agents or whatever there, so that way she could then have Robin captured and then get the bounty herself. Which is just kind of a crappy thing to do to a kid. But again, propaganda, and the world government has a very, very tight hold on propaganda, and even at this point in time, the World Economic Journal, Times, whatever it was, World Economic News or whatever, would have been around, maybe not quite as widespread as it ended up becoming, as it currently is in the story, but it was still there, and they probably still had to deal with Morgans and everything else like that in regards to, you print what we want you to print. You don't print that. You don't print what we don't want you to print. Organs has just kind of thrown that out the window at this point in time. So we're getting some of that, I think this is like the same lady that was there. And then we get these other people like talking about like having witnessed Robin somewhere in the world. Probably most, in the North Blue, in the West Blue specifically where she's from. She probably was like hopping from one island to the other, to another, hiding, doing any bits that she could to stay alive, scrounging for food, scrounging for anything, trying to hide, trying to maybe find someone who could show her some form of kindness and wasn't willing to betray her to the world government for insert whatever number of reason they can come up with. And it's like she has a scholarly intellect and lacks any trace of empathy. Look at that bounty. There, let's shoot to kill. And we're seeing this this is probably stuff that's going to get expanded upon a bit when the anime gets their hands on it, obviously. And we are seeing these bits where it's like Robin scrounging in the trash for food, and we see her find this dog, and she's like probably sharing food with the dog because Robin is so kind. And we always see stuff. A lot of the cover page stuff has, the Straw Hats with various animals, but like a lot of times we always see Robin like taking care of animals and everything. There's one where it's Robin and like this like injured coyote or something. It's like leg is injured, so she like popped one of her legs on it, made one of her legs materialize, so it has a leg, and it's confused out of its mind. Not that I blame it. It's like, why do I have another leg? This is not right. So we see a lot of like stuff with Robin with animals. I mean, a lot of the cover pages are that, but so it's like these things with the Straw Hats with the animals, which are adorable. So we see that. And the thing that was going through my head when I was like reading the summary of this and reading through the spoilers and then reading this is, there is one of the endings for the anime, and apparently there's more than one ending that is centered around Robin. I knew there was at least one, if not two, but there's one, and this was not the one that I was thinking of, but it is one that definitely ties into this. The one that I was thinking of, and I couldn't figure out which one it was, because I just started the new job, so I'm still learning that, and we've been doing a bunch of different family stuff recently, so I haven't had the chance to go to get as deep into this as I usually do, just because of so much stuff happening all together, happening so close together. So I just got to get used to my new schedule of stuff, which will be fun for me. So one of the endings that they have, and I was trying to figure out which one it was, and I couldn't figure it out, but there's one ending where it centers around Robin, and it's and we're seeing like little flashbacks of Robin when she's like a little kid. Now, I don't remember if this one came out, if this ending was being used in the anime before the Enies Lobby arc happened, or if it was after, because I was trying to find it and I couldn't figure out which one it was, so I'm sorry, but I know there's at least that one that kind of centers around Robin, and I know at least one of those scenes I think has her, one of the little things has her like talking to a dog and like trying to laugh and everything. And then there is another one, which is one of the other ones that popped up here, that is Asu wa Kuru Kara, or translates to tomorrow will always come, or there will always be a tomorrow, or some variation of that. And it's the 17th ending that they've done for the series, but it didn't end up, I couldn't find anything that was like the stills for it very well beyond like the main picture. And it's like lots of the stuff where it is kind of like going through Robin's flashback and kind of showing stuff in regards to everything that she's been through with Ohara, with Saul, with her mother, with Clover, with all of this other stuff that's being brought up in this chapter. And it is kind of this concept of like it's going through all of these things, and some of the stuff that we've just learned about in Robin's flashback and everything. And of course, if you've read the manga, then you know about the flashback by the time you watch it in the anime and everything. So it's like that type of a thing. And so it's like showing some of that stuff, and then it's just like it's reasons for Robin to be very sad and very upset and everything. And then it like brightens up because like the Straw Hats show up, and like they show up, and of course it's all of the all of the crew up to that point, pre Frankie. Show up, and they're all, they bring this light into her life, and it's this great thing, and I love that. And I kind of hope that when they get to this bit in the anime, when they finally get to like this episode and this bit in the anime, I would love it if they have that one playing in the background. And have have that play in the background, and then maybe have like a new version of that as like the ending theme for that specific episode, or like for a couple of these episodes, with her reuniting with Saul and everything, have that play there. That would be great. I think that would be a great way of doing it as an homage to that. Because the Straw Hats really did just bring like this light and this happiness and this sense of safety and home into Robin's life, and I love that, and I'll touch more on that in a little bit. But also here, not only do we have Robin being very sad and being on the run and hiding and everything, we also have the mob with swords and guns, and of course there's probably some torches and pitchforks involved there, and they're like, don't hold back just because she looks young and everything. So we have the typical pitchfork mob, which is always a great thing to have. So we have that, and we're cutting into this town where it's like raining, and like Robin's, hiding in various places and everything else like that, and it's just like she has mysterious powers, hurry and catch her, and there's like a mother holding her baby, and she's like, I can't sleep knowing she's out there. I'm like, what are you expecting her to do? Like, just randomly show up at your house and do something? I don't know, probably. And like, we see Robin standing in the rain, and she's just, wet and cold and everything. And like, there's this old guy, and he's like, I wish she'd just die already. And it's like, we see Robin hiding behind this building while the mob with pitchforks and stuff are going after to try to find her. And it's just like, the Marines need to take her out. She's the enemy of the world and everything. So it's just like this one thing after another. And it's actually very similar to what Ace went through because, of course, Ace, growing up in the Goa Kingdom, up in the mountains on Mount Corbo and everything with Dodon. And yes, Dodon loved Ace, and yes, he had Luffy, and he had Sabo for a while, and of course, then later on, he had, Makino and Whoopsot down in the village and everything, and, he had Garp and everything. But Ace had those moments, too, where he would end up in, a bar, just, listening to people talk about how horrible Roger was, with, Roger was a demon, and, anything related to him should be gone, it's demon spawn, and different things like that, and that's basically what's being done here to Robin, although it's, it's not much better. And of course, Robin and Ace, which Robin never met Ace, that's kind of sad too, because I think Robin and Ace would have got along great, and stuff. So there's that, and there's the whole subplot that Roger was Robin's father. That's a whole theory out there, that Roger was her father, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe, but I don't know, because well, the Roger Pirates knew about Ohara. I'm like, well, Ohara was considered the center of the knowledge in the world. I'm sure there were a lot of people who knew about Ohara. That's the point. So there's that. And we see Robin has come to a cliff that's overlooking the ocean, and this is still a very young Robin, probably maybe not even a year after the Ohara incident. So there's that. And it's her, and she clearly ran to the cliff because she's huffing and everything because she's very tired from it, from just having to run for her life and hide and everything. And clearly she's contemplating doing something. And we see her having the memory of her mother doing Live Robin, and Robin just, and remembering what Saul told her, which is the listen carefully, Robin, you're all alone right now, but someday, without a doubt, you will find true friends, which is of course the callback to the, someday you'll find friends who won't ever leave you, which I love that line. That is one of my favorite freaking lines in One Piece. And just because of what it means, that you are not meant to be alone. No one in this world is meant to be alone. And yeah, you're alone now, but someday you will find these friends who won't ever leave you. And of course, with Robin, later on, takes 20 freaking years, but she eventually finds the Straw Hats. And she knows that they will never leave her. They will never do anything to abandon her. Even with what happened with, Kuma scattering them around, around the world and everything from Sabaody, she still knew that they weren't abandoning her. And all of that, and I love that. And, it's and we're getting the scene, the flashback to, on Ohara when Saul is being frozen by Kuzan and everything, and he's telling her this, and of course we know that Kuzan allows Robin to leave. And then we cut back to the little cliff, and Robin's just standing there, and she's like, but Saul, I'm scared. I'm so scared of everyone. Which, it's we look at we look at Robin in regards to everything that she went through. We look at Robin, the way she is now with the Straw Hats, she has opened up so much to the Straw Hats, to Nami, to Luffy, to all of them. She's opened up so much to them. She's made friends with Sabo and Koala and Hack, so she's made friends with all of them and everything. And she's made friends with like other people that they've met along the way and everything. And and we see Robin slowly open up more and more throughout the course of the series, and that's the point. We see her starting off at the end of Alabasta when they're leaving. And she's calling everybody except for Luffy by, like, Miss Navigator, or Mr. Swordsman, or Mr. Chef, or Mr. Doctor, or Mr. Longnose, or whatever. Mr. Sniper, whatever it is that she called each of them. She wasn't calling them their names except for Luffy. And then later on, after Enies Lobby, she starts calling them by their names. And then, of course, Frankie becomes a part of that, and Brooke becomes a part of that, and then, of course, much more recently, with the end of Wano, Jinbei is now a part of that and everything. And so we've seen all of that shifting and everything. And I think that's one of the other reasons why Robin kind of gravitated toward helping take care of Tama after Yasui was executed, where Robin was kind of the one that was like kind of helping take care of her for a little while there, Toko, was taking care of Toko. Nami's the one that gravitated toward Tama, but like Nami and Toko and Tama probably all would have gotten along great as well. But Nami more gravitated toward Tama, and then Robin more gravitated toward Toko in that regard. And there is a bit of a connection there because, like, Robin knows what it looks like to see, like, your whole world go up in flames. And, Toko watched her father be executed and everything, and then was almost killed by Orochi's men in the process, just after. And, of course, Sanji and Zoro saved her, of course, and I'll be going over that when I talk about Toko in my, Royals and Leaders and everything else type series later on. But, it's like Robin kind of connected with Toko because, like, Robin knows what it likes to see her whole world go up in flames. And for so long, all the way up until, like, a couple of days ago, she was under the impression that Saul was dead too. Her mother was dead, Clover was dead, all the archaeologists were dead, her aunt and uncle and cousin were dead, and, she was under the impression Saul was dead. And then now, now she... only in the last couple of days because of Vegapunk, she's learned that, oh no, Saul's alive. He's on the island. He's on Elbath. And now they're going to go meet him. And it is, like, Robin at this age, like, by the time we meet her, she is very callous to the world and very closed off and has, like, all these walls up around her heart. This is little Robin, who has already been given so many reasons to mistrust every single frickin' person around her. She mistrusted her aunt and uncle because of the way they treated her. She adored the archaeologists and she trusted them. She allowed herself to trust Saul, and he ended up dead, to the best of her knowledge, because of her to a degree. Same thing with her mother. She lost Olvia with barely getting to meet her. And then she's forced into this life where she is on the run for so long. And then, eventually she ends up being able to get from, like, one crew to the next, to one organization to the next, that eventually ends up in Baroque Works. 6 years ago, I think is what it was. She ends up in Baroque Works. And then, she's taken care of by Crocodile. He treats her well, but she knows that the only reason she's there is because she can read the poneglyph, and that's what Crocodile needs her to do. The second he no longer needs her to read the poneglyph, he's going to get rid of her. And, of course, that's what he attempts to do, is get rid of her. Doesn't work. Crocodile gets the crap beat out of him by Luffy, of course, and then, of course, Luffy is able to help save Robin and everything, and Robin saves him, and all of that, and then, of course, she's on the crew, and then eventually, over the course of her time with the crew, she slowly starts to open up to them, to connect with them, to see... her introduction to the crew is not as their friend, it's as their enemy. And she sees the way that they help Vivi, she sees the way that they help the people of Alabasta and everything. And she's, like, watching that. And she doesn't end up having, like, direct fights where it's, like, a big all-out fight between her and any of the Straw Hats during the Alabasta arc. She fights Pell, and she technically has a bit of a standoff with Vivi. But again, they're on opposite sides. But she doesn't have like a knockdown, drag out fight with any of the other Straw Hats at that time. And she hasn't. I mean, yeah, in Water 7, Luffy and Usopp have a fight. They have their duel. And then, of course, you know, Frankie and Usopp fight because, Frankie beats up, or Frankie's family beat up Usopp. And then, of course, there's all that stuff there. Luffy and Frankie fight in Water 7 at one point, near the beginning. But there's not really this instance where, like, that type of a thing happens. But, Robin has gone through so much, and she's, like, she had to callous her heart and build up these walls to protect herself. And part of it is because of all the freaking people who kept betraying her. Again and again and again and again, one after the other. All because either they wanted the bounty or because they were scared of her. And that's just so sad. And I went on that tangent longer than I wanted to. Sorry. But I think it's very important for Robin's psychology in it. And of course, we keep having her remember Saul's lines of, like, when things are unbearable, remember what I taught you. And we see Robin looking through, like, these books that's, like, it's like a street vendor selling books, and she's looking at a book that's, I can't read what it says on it, but I think it's like a globe or something like that. And she looks at like, one of the maps in it of, like, the West Blue, and Ohara isn't there. And she's like, it's gone. And, like, she's still remembering Saul, and it just, like, laughed like this, dead as she. And we see, like, the book vendor or the police officer or whatever shows up and, like, grabs her and is like, what are you? And they see, and, like, she inked into the book or drew into the book where Ohara was on the map, because now it's been erased. And it's just like she leaves a trail of threats, of thefts and murder wherever she goes. And it's like we just see this image of, like, Robin running for her life, and she's, like, trying to laugh, but she's crying so much. And it's like we're hearing, like, the voiceovers of, like, all these people that she's had to interact with, or that have heard her, or that vaguely have heard her, have, like, a cousin of a sister of a friend of a coworker who somehow saw Nico Robin or whatever. And it's just like, I hear she uses her childlike appearance to lure poor souls in, only to slit their throats as they sleep. And it's just like, what? That's insane. Or, like, all this other stuff where they're all, like, wishing she would, like, drop dead, which is just sad. And she is just, like, trying to laugh so much because, like, she doesn't have anything else to keep her going. And we see her laughing. And then we cut out of the flashback and we cut back to Elbath, and we're seeing, the nice, layers of Elbath, the underworld, and the realm of the sun, and then the realm of the gods. Or the heaven realm, whatever you want to refer to it as. And we're seeing them all arrive. And I think it's Dory that's like, yeah, there's a port on this tree. Is this a sea on clouds? Or I think that's, like, the Straw Hats talking. And then Dory's like, drop anchor. And it's like, this is the Western Village port. And there are sea clouds, of course. And we see that the Great Eric has now landed there. And we can still see some of the battle damage, like the figurehead is still, like, tied on from where it got, like, attacked by Saturn and stuff. And there's still, like, some scorch marks on the sails from where, from, like, the fire, from the attacks from the Gorosei, caused that and everything. And the cannonballs from the Marine ship, so we see some of that. And we see the Great Eric has landed, and we see, like, the little ship that Hyrudine and Stanson are in, which I don't believe that's the new Giant Warrior Pirate ship. I think it's just, like, one of the random other little ships that's, like, associated with them, because it does have the same flag on it. And we see, like, the villagers from the giant village of Shotobo. It was like, welcome back, captains! Your lateness really had us worried. And we see Brooke and Frankie and Robin and Bonnie and Lilith and Jimbei are getting off the boat, and Brooke is like, my brain is bugging out. It's all so out of this world as they're looking at everything. And Robin's just like, how majestic, as she's looking at everything. And Lilith's just like, yay! And Bonnie's like, So Bonnie is so happy about this, and I love this. I love Bonnie being in like her little child form right now because she's getting to go on an adventure, and she's around people who she knows she can trust because they've already helped her. And I still don't know if we're gonna have a scene where Bonnie actually fully does like a whole thing and goes, oh yeah, I'm actually like really only like 12 years old. I'm not actually 20 something. I'm like 12. I was like, Nami, Robin must protect. Robin kind of already has that a little bit with Bonnie, but like we haven't really seen Nami interact with like kid Bonnie that much yet. And Broggy's just like, yeah, the others are here. And we see like Luffy and Usopp, and they're just like, wait, check it out, this is awesome. So they're all happy, and like Bonnie is like so happy, and she's got stars in her eyes, and Frankie has stars in his eyes, and Robin's like, oh my, what's that? As they're seeing this other ship show up, and this ship is it is like a Viking, like a not a longboat, but like a smaller ship, and it does have oars, but the oars have like clouds on them, so like it's making the ship float, I guess, in a way. And we're doing that, and it's just like that's a Saval, S-V-A-L-R. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. It's like, that's incredible. What a country. So they're just like, oh my freaking God. And we see like Goldberg's on there too, and he's got the Sunny is like on, he's still holding the Sunny. Again, the Sunny is like the same size as Goldberg, which is just funny. And then like Gerd's the one rowing the ship. And it's like, it's a mist ship that moves using island clouds. So it's like, that's how the ship moves, is the clouds help it move. And so the ship lands next to like where the Great Eric is, and where like Hybridine's little ship is. And it's just like, Straw Hat, Usoland, my comrades, welcome to Elbath. I love that. And Robin and Nami are seeing each other, and Nami is like, Robin, nice haircut. I figured you'd get one. And Robin's just like, yeah, you look like you've gotten well acquainted with Elbath. Robin's not going to be happy when she finds out what happened to Nami because of Road, or why they're in their little outfits. Robin's not going to be happy about that, and neither will Brooke or Frankie or Jinbei. None of them will be happy about it when they find out about that. But Road's getting a bit of a punishment anyway right now. But I like this little moment between Nami and Robin, because I kind of have this, because we know that, like, the Straw Hats, like, kind of off-page and off-screen have, like, kind of talked about their backstories kind of with each other, and, like, a bits and pieces, maybe not, like, the whole thing. Like, we know that, like, some of the ones that were from East Blue, and like Usopp specifically is one who will just like tell anybody about like his backstory, which his backstory is, I grew up in a small town in the East Blue. My dad's the sniper for the red-haired pirates. My mom was Banshina. She died when I was like 6 from whatever disease. And then I was an orphan in town, and I ran through the village telling lies about pirates showing up every day to the point people could set their clocks to it. Also, I was in love with the girl in the big house on the hill and everything, and her butler ended up being evil. It's like, Usopp will tell his backstory to anyone who will ask, even someone sitting on the subway. I didn't ask for your backstory, I asked you to move. Goes back to the newspaper. So I have a feeling that, like, the Straw Hats have, like, talked with each other a bit about some of their backstories and everything. And the thing is that, like, for, like, a good chunk of time, like, Robin and Nami are the only two girls really in, like, the women's quarters on the Thousand Sunny, and on the Mary it was the same thing. And, like, now they have, like, Lilith and, like, Bonnie traveling with them at the moment, but, like, I don't know how long that's gonna last. In that regard. And like Vivi and Nami were like, in the women's quarters for a little while on their own too, between when they left Whiskey Peak and then of course landing on Alabasta. So there's that. So I kind of have this thought that like maybe Robin and Nami had like times where they were like, staying up at night, or like just having like girl gab sessions where they were doing each other's nails and braiding each other's hair or whatever. And just like talking and being friends and everything. And like this would be after like Robin's had like after Ines Lobby type of a thing. And like they had like these, you know, maybe long conversations or shorter conversations or something, and she like talked about Saul and her mother. And then maybe something happened, you know, maybe more recently, like between when they left Egghead and when Luffy's group and got grabbed and with the Sunny and everything by the Crow, maybe there was like a little bit of time in there where like Robin and Nami talked a little bit, and Robin said something about like, I think I'm gonna cut my hair before we get to Elbath. And she's like, essentially she wants it to be like she was when she was younger, and Nami's like, oh, that'll look great. And then they're all drunk, and then people fall asleep, and then the Crow shows up and takes people, and then Robin has to have Brooke do it instead of like Sanji or something. So like that happened. It's like just my headcanon there. And like Luffy is, you know, getting, you know, meeting Hyruddin. He's like, long time no see, Hyruddin. And we see Hyruddin, Gerd, Goldberg, Stanson, all with the Straw Hats, like they're all holding up their hands and everything. And like, you know, a bunch of them are on like their palms. Frankie is sitting on Stanson's shoulder, and then Jinbei is sitting on Goldberg's shoulder, which is just adorable. Because Hyruddin has at least met Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Brooke, and Usopp, Frankie, and Robin has at least met them. He didn't meet any of the others yet, but he met them. Stanson has technically been in the same place as the first 9 Straw Hats when they helped free him and the other slaves from the auction house way back in Sabaody, but he didn't really interact with them that much. He more interacted with Rayleigh. So it's like they haven't met. Not really. And then Gerd just met the first part of the crew, and then like Goldberg was there as well for that. And so it's just like, I love Jinbei just like sitting on Goldberg's shoulder, and then Frankie's sitting on top of Stanson's shoulder, while the other Straw Hats are just like, hi, waving around and everything, and meeting all of the other ones, meeting the others. And then we have Road in the back, and he's like crucified, stuck to this cross with like chains wrapped around him and a giant welt on his head, and he's bleeding and everything. So he got beat up. How he got here, I don't know. He didn't look like he was on the ship with Gerd and Goldberg bringing the Straw Hats down, so something. Maybe he was and I missed it, and I just can't tell. I don't know. Maybe he was tied up in the bottom of the boat, and then they stuck him to the cross or whatever. This is your punishment for just being really freaking creepy and rude and mean to our guests, type of a thing. And Hyruddin is talking to them, and he's like, I've been keeping up with your progress in Emperor already, huh? As expected from our big boss. I'll introduce everyone later, but as us 4 make up the new giant warrior pirates, or the new giant pirates, we're your subordinates. And Gerd's like, it's a pleasure, as she's meeting, like, the rest of the Straw Hats. So we get that. He said the 4 of us, so I don't know if he's including Road in this, or he has already put together that Road did something stupid, and has decided to, I'm just disowning the creep, is possibly what's going on there. So we're getting that. I did miss like 2 little panels down here at the bottom. So first we have the little cloud ship showing up, and it's like the climate here on Elbath is perfect for all this. And we have Lilith talking, and she's like, island and sea clouds, Sabo bubbles, or the Sabaody bubbles, rainbows and hovers. All look at all the technology they have coexisting here. So I love that it's like, because it's like the tree is so tall and has like the right environment around it that it can have the different types of island clouds that we saw as they were going through the White Sea and the White Sea and everything up to Skypiea. So we see all of that. And then it also has like the right type of environment. So similar to what like the Sunlight Tree Eve can do with all of the bubbles and everything else like that it can produce at Sabaody and at Fishman Island. So it has like that type of stuff as well. So they have those bubbles as well. Plus they have like hovers, and of course they have like the rainbows that we saw with like the painter stones and everything in the previous chapter. So we see that. So we're getting some of that stuff. So it's like all this stuff together that just makes Elbaf so freaking cool, which is awesome. So it's like the Straw Hats are meeting the giant warrior pirates, which is great. And Luffy's like, I told you I don't want subordinates. And Hyrudine's like, well, it's our choice. Yeah, he's laughing at him. And I love that. And then we have it that Hyrudine is saying, even this insular nation was swept away with excitement when we heard about Big Mom's defeat on Wano, as he's like holding Luffy. And Big Mom is Luffy's like, Big Mom? Because like Luffy and the others have no comprehension as to the connection that Big Mom has with Elbaf. They don't know anything about it. They have no idea about it. And we have Gerd, and she's like, Linlin and I were friends once, but she did something that the people of Elbaf consider unforgivable. So again, this is everything that relates back to Big Mom's flashback that we get during the tea party after Mother Carmel's picture is destroyed. And of course, in that flashback, we see, Linlin living on Elbaf for a little while, where she's at the sheep's house, and we see her and Gerd, as friends and everything there. And then, of course, everything happened with the Semla incident and Big Mom killing, Yorl or Jarl, whichever one is the one that's not apparently over 400 years old and still alive. We'll see him later, I'm assuming. We haven't seen him yet, and we're not seeing him in this chapter. Excuse me. We'll see when we see him. We'll see when we see him. I don't know. So there's that. So that's that. So, and we see Sanji just like still looking at Gerd with like hearts coming off of him. Sanji, just calm the heck down. So we have that, and then we're getting this great view of the village, and we see Road is still chained to the cross, which is just funny. And, all of the rest, a bunch of the other giants are here, and, like, they're all dressed like Vikings and everything, so it's just picture How to Train Your Dragon is what they all look like, minus the dragons. Maybe there's dragons somewhere on this island, but, like, picture How to Train Your Dragon minus the dragons. Just picture all the citizens of the island of Berk. So we get that. Also, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the new live action, How to Train Your Dragon. We'll see what they do with that. We have, like, a bunch of them talking to her, like, hey, Hyrudine, save the chit-chat for after our toast. Food and drinks come first. We have, like, Dory and Broggy over at the tavern over here, so they're the ones talking to it, just like, we've prepared a mountain of it for you. And it's just like, it better be a mountain to scale for us. Because, like, Luffy's bottomless stomach, and Bonnie's isn't much better, and Chopper can eat so much too. So it's like, let's head for the tavern. So it's like Luffy and Usopp's just like, yay, we're heading for the tavern. So they're getting ready to head there. And Luffy's like, yep, food, I'm starving. And Usopp's like, I got so excited, I'm running low on energy. He's so happy. And like all the Straw Hats are rushing off toward there. And Robin's just kind of like, hey, Luffy. And I'm assuming that's just like everybody's just going to stop and turn and look at Robin. And then we cut a little bit, and it's to the southwest of the Western Village. So now they're just like moving to a different area of the island, and they're on the little island cloud boat again. The cloud boat, Skavlar or whatever it was. We're there, and Robin's, we have the rest of the crew is on the ship, the whole crew is on the ship, and Gerd is on the little ship sailing them there because she, of course, knows how it works, and she knows where she's taking them. And Robin's like, I'm fine going alone. And Luffy's like, no way. And Chopper's like, I want to be there. Nami, me too. I love that. And Jinbei's like, it's a good excuse to sightsee. I'm like, I love Jinbei's thought there. Like, we'll take the long way around and we'll sightsee on the way there. And Zoro's like, agreed. So that's just funny. It's like, what do you care about sightseeing, Zoro? And then we have Gerd sitting in the boat, and Chopper's sitting on her head, and the rest of the crew are, like, sitting around her. And I think Robin is, like, sitting on her knee. Because, like, Gerd's mainly talking to Robin, but the rest of the crew are there as well. And Gerd's like, Mr. Saul did say he wanted to show Robin-chan the library. So let's head down to the school. And they're like, thanks for guiding us, Gerd. So I don't know that might be Nami who's saying that. I don't know. I can't tell. They're too small. And it's just like, it's no trouble. It's not far. So they're headed there. And Luffy looks over at Robin. He's just like, forget it, Robin. As captain, I gotta greet someone who took care of one of my crewmates properly. I love this. And Robin's like, what? Where did you hear that? And Luffy's like, it's just the right thing to do. And Bonnie is with them too. So Bonnie's just kind of, hanging out with the crew, which I like. So I like this. I like Luffy saying this because it kind of calls back to when we find out that Ace sought out Shanks in order to thank Shanks for saving Luffy. That when Ace became a pirate, he went off and he found Shanks at some point in time, and he thanked Shanks for the fact that Shanks saved Luffy even before Luffy was even Ace's brother. And we have that moment, and I think Luffy is kind of starting to realize that, like, okay, your crew is your responsibility, yes, and he's been aware of that for a while, but I think Luffy is kind of also starting to realize that, like, okay, your crew is your responsibility, yes, and then there are the people who are connected to your crew that are, like, their family and their friends and everything, and these other people who have helped take care of them over the years, because, like, Luffy was, like, way back in East Blue when he met, like, he wasn't like rude to Kaya or anything like that because she was Usopp's friend, and the same thing, and she gave them to Mary, and then, like, he wasn't like necessarily rude to, like, Genzo and Nojiko when they were in Fuchsia Village, so there wasn't that. And, like, Luffy kind of gained respect for Zeph and everything, so there's that in regards to that. And of course there's other family members of his crew and of his friends that he's interacted with, and I think Luffy is starting to take his role not, like, completely seriously, obviously, because he's still Luffy, but more serious in the fact that he's like, okay, this person, Saul, he helped Robin, he means a lot to Robin. I don't know if you can pick up on the mic, but she's licking her paws behind me, I'm sorry. Good girl. But Luffy's like, okay, I want to meet Soul. I want to thank him for for taking care of Robin when she was a kid, for being there for her, long before I could have been there for her and everything. So I like that. And we get, like, this little mini flashback that's just like Broggy is just like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, we'll save that toast for after you fetch Saul and everything. Because, like, Broggy and Dory and Broggy met Saul, and Hyrudean, Gerd, and Goldberg were all part of the group of the Giants that went to go help with gathering up all of the books that were on Ohara, with digging them out of the lake and drying them out and then taking them back to Elbath. They were part of that group, so, like, they've known Saul for, like, a good 21, 22-ish years, if it's been, if he was there, a whole year and everything, so, so they've known him for quite a while, so, like, of course, Hyrudean knows him, and Hyrudean's like, I'll prep that special moose for you, take your time. Luffy's gonna look at this moose and go, that's a dinosaur, and yes, I will eat it. It's a dinosaur with fur, with antlers and a mane. And so we're getting, like, some more looks about what Elbath looks like here. Just more of the forest, like the pine trees in the forest and everything. And Usopp's just like, so, even you warriors study hard. And Gerd's like, Mr. Saul is primarily a history teacher, but he also teaches us about various books. And we see this great... It's basically like a tree house in, like, this... giant branch, and of course giant, like, it's the library, but it looks like a giant tree house, which I kind of want to think is maybe a reference to, like, the Magic Treehouse books, because I really used to like those when I was a kid. I kind of want it to be like a little reference to that. So we have that. We see this great, beautiful library with, like, this waterfall coming down the branch next to it, over this, like, stream, and there's, like, a couple of other little buildings around the area, and they're showing up, and Gerd's like, this is Warrior Springs, and by the water side is the Owl Library. And there's, like, spring? It looks like it leads to a beach. It's like, yeah. And she's like, that's right. It's a beach formed of broken off parts of the tree. There's no tide, but that waterfall at the source is always making waves. So it's like, it is a beach, but, no tide, so it's not affected by the moon necessarily. And, like, there's, like, the waves are caused by that, so it's, like, ripple effects in the water and type of a thing. It's like, it's like a real sea, and, like, we see the ship coming into land and everything. And Luffy, being Luffy, is, of course, just getting ready to rush rush off to go get Saul, and Nami's like grabbing him by the cheek to stop him. He's like, all right, let's go get him. We gotta bring Saul back to the tavern. And Nami's like, hold it! Like, just dragging him back. I love that. Just, like, landing him on the ground. And she's, like, pinned Luffy to the ground and is, like, sitting on his back behind him. And she's like, this is Robin's reunion, is what she's yelling at him. But I love it. Like, we see some of the other Straw Hats just, like, looking at Luffy and probably shaking their heads, which is reasonable. But, like, you know, Nami pinning Luffy is just funny. And then Robin's just like, my heart's pounding. And I don't blame her. I mean, like, you know, it's like there's lots of shows out there that are now, like, dedicated to, you know, shows and reporters and all types of stuff like that are now very dedicated to trying to help, like, reunite people with, like, lost family members, or helping, like, a kid that was put up for adoption be found by their biological parent or something who gave them up because they weren't ready to be a parent or they couldn't be a parent for whatever reason, and helping find, you know, lost family members and stuff like that, you know. So, like, so much of that has happened. So that's, you know, something along those lines where it's just like, gonna meet them type of a thing, which, like, a lot of people put, like, heart fluttering thing when it's just like, oh, I'm gonna meet a celebrity or something like that. But it's just like, okay, yeah, cool to meet a celebrity, or cool to meet someone that, you know, you're a fan of, not a problem. But, like, there is, like, this thing where it's just like you're being reunited with someone who you have this connection with, and, like, sometimes it's instantaneous, sometimes it's not, it just depends. And then in this we have, like, this other giant running up. This female giant is running up and he's like, this is bad, it's Mr. Saul, he's fallen and he can't get up. And they're like, what? And then we have Luffy, Sanji, Chopper, and Usopp are all just like, oh my god, outraged by this. Luffy's like, seriously? We came just to see him. And Sanji's like, this is a reunion 22 years in the making. And he just collapsed. And Chopper's like, I'm a doctor. I'll examine him right away. Where is he? I love that. And then Usopp's just like, get him all fixed up, Chopper. Everything's riding on you. I love this because it's just like, just so funny. I mean, like, I get Luffy. It's just like, Luffy's kind of reaction is like, oh my god, the same way that, like, our reactor was like, oh my god, Saul fell down. And the other reader's just like, oh my god, Saul fell down. What are we gonna do? Not this. We can't do this. We can't take this away from Robin. You can't do this, Oda. Is kind of like what Luffy's reaction is. And, like, Usopp and, or Luffy and Sanji's reactions are kind of that. And Usopp and Chopper is just like, oh, I can fix him type of thing. So there's that, which is just great. And the other giant, who might be, like, Saul's apprentice or something, maybe at the library, she's the assistant librarian, I don't know. She, like, points over to where he is, and he's like, he's over there, he just fell all of a sudden. And Robin's just, like, kind of looking, and then she just starts laughing, and she's like, how silly. And they're like, hey, don't mock the sick. I don't know if that's the giant or someone, or one of the Straw Hats is doing it. But, like, Robin's just kind of giggling, and she starts walking over to where Saul is, and she's like, it's fine, I'll go to him on my own. You can all stay here. And she heads over, and they're like, but Robin-san, Robin! And she's like, and to think, I got all worked up over nothing. And she's walking over, and she looks so pretty. I love her in this dress. I'm expecting them in the anime to make it the same color dress as what she would wear, was what she wore when she was a kid. That like maroonish red colored dress. I'm expecting it to be that. Is what color I'm expecting it to be. And she's walking over to Saul, and of course, this is just like pretty much shot for shot, basically, panel for panel, basically, for the way it is when Robin finds Saul on Ohara. The first time, where he's like washed up on the beach, and his cowboy hat is right there, and he's like face down in the sand and everything, and like we can see some of like the scars on his arms and everything. And there's like another new feature of his, we'll see it a little bit, but she's like walking up to him, and like Saul kind of like peeked his eye open a little bit to see her get closer, and then he goes, ah! Like he did when she was a kid, trying to scare her. And like, just of course, Robin, jump scares don't necessarily cause Robin any problems. Hi, baby. Yes, I know you're a good girl. I'm almost done with this, but I have to read through two friends reuniting, and then we'll be good. Um, yes, I know you're a good girl. Um, and we see, Saul's like, ah, and like Robin just kind of stands there, just like she did when she was a kid. And we cut away, and it's, he did it, she, because he's like, did I get you? Which I love this. And he's like looking at Robin, and she's like, not surprised, not scared, just looking at him. He's like, guess not. And he just like starts smiling and laughing. And he sits up in the water, sits up on the beach, puts his hat on his head, straightens himself out, and he's like, I know you're not a kid anymore. Sorry, I wasn't sure how to break the ice after all this time. And she's laughing, and she's like, you still have the same silly, same funny laugh. And he picks her up, so it's just like Robin's sitting in his, standing in his hands as he's like holding her up to his face, which is adorable. And he's like, she. Yep, it's still ridiculous. Now let me get a good look at your face. And he's pulling her closer because it's like, I'm sure Saul has been like tracking Robin's wanted posters and everything, probably a lot more recently too. With like bounty hikes because of the straw hats and everything. He's probably, and after Saba Odie and everything, like the newest ones from Wano and everything, so he's probably been tracking all of those. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Saul just has like this, like a section of like one of his walls or by his desk or something at the in the library has like Robin's bounty posters over the years, and they're just sitting there and they're all framed. In newer and newer ones as they get as they come out, and he just has them framed like the way Bartolomeo does, or I'm sure Makino has some of like Luffy's bounty posters framed and stuff like that, like how their families probably do. And does that, so he has like a picture of her, and maybe he even somehow has like an old copy of like Olvia's poster there as well. And so we see this, and he's like, let me get a good look at your face. And he's like, you've grown as pretty as Olvia. You look just like her. And Robin is slightly surprised by that. And she's like, what? And like we see Saul, like he's got like the scars on his... No, I don't want that. He's got like scars on his arms. And he's got like scars on his face and everything from like, where we saw it. From, because we're gonna find out here in a second, but it's, he was, from being frozen and burned and everything. We'll do that extreme cold to extreme heat, and we get like this full body shot of Saul as he's there holding Robin, and we get the Oda box, the Saul, former Navy Vice Admiral, Robin's savior, and Saul now has a peg leg. And we see like scars on his leg too. So he now has a peg leg. So he's in the peg leg club with Zeph, which is that's a good club to be in if you're in a club with Zeph. So that's good. So we have that. I know you're getting impatient with me. I'm sorry. But Robin is just kind of thrown off by what Saul said, and she's like, "What, like mother?" Because like Robin only met Olvia once. And she probably thought her mother was very beautiful, and of course, they have the same voice actress and everything in the English dub, and I don't know if they did the same thing in the Japanese dub for the original, but like at least in the English dub they have the same actress, which is fine. And so we have that, and like we get this little cutback, the little flashback to where we have Olvia looking at Robin, when she's meeting her and everything. And it's Olvia telling her, we can't give up on the future you will live in. You'll understand someday. And of course, that is like where it leads into in the flashback, or the full flashback, where like Saul shows up and scoops up Robin and runs her away and everything. And Saul is saying, you have kind eyes just like her, in regards to like comparing Robin and Olvia. And Robin probably has like this like kind of solidified image of her mother in her head just from that day, because like there's so much stuff, so many like core memories happened for Robin on that day on Ohara. and like seeing her mother was one, and then everything that happened with Saul and Kuzan and everything, and the Buster call and Clover and everything, just was like core memory after core memory after core memory, just filling her up, if you want to go by Inside Out terms. Was just like so much, and like she has like this solidified image of her mother in her head, where even, you know, Olvia beaten and bloody, she still sees Olvia as so pretty and everything. So we have that. And then they're talking some more, and Saul is like, did you hear Vegapunk's broadcast, Robin? And she's like, I was there when it happened, so I couldn't hear much, but I read the coverage of it in the newspaper, in the paper. So it was obviously, Morgans did end up printing like a, you know, typed out version or whatever of what Vegapunk's speech was. So that's helpful, I guess. So we have Saul talking, and he's like, I see. And, you know, Vegapunk popped in and was like, history is written by the victors, which is true. History is written by the winners. That's kind of the way it works. And it depends on how freaking persistent us, the losers can be, depending on how things are going. And we get like this great panel where we see like a bunch of the archaeologists in the background, like, because it's like Robin and Saul remembering them. Robin mostly remembering them, because like Saul never really met them except for Olvia, but like, you know, she's remembering them. And Saul is like, those words were O'Hara's legacy. They were supposed to have been buried in history and left to vanish without anyone hearing. And yet, the voices of the scholars of O'Hara were passed on. Vegapunk was a true scientist. He refused to preach about right and wrong. But, in the end, he still risked his life to tell everyone. O'Hara and Vegapunk took a huge leap of faith. I'm sure their sacrifice will shape the future. And, of course, we're hoping it will. And Robin's like, yeah. And I mean, that is kind of like this perspective of what we had of Vegapunk, with like, Vegapunk was so, you know, he's like, he was refusing to judge the person who was the one who killed him. To be fair, at the time that he's, you know, recording the message, he doesn't know who's going to be the one to kill him. And the good thing is, for like the outside world, they're mostly under the impression that it was Luffy that was the one that did it, when in actuality, obviously it wasn't. It was, you know, Saturn and Kizaru and the Goro say that we're the ones who actually killed Vegapunk. But it is this thing where it's like, Vegapunk, even though he was a man of science, he's like, the world needs to know about this stuff. They have the right to know about it, particularly if it's going to lead to a lot of them being destroyed in the process. So there's that. And we cut in close, and we see Robin like reaching up to like touch Saul's face, where like one of his scars is, burn marks is, and she's like, and yours too. Does it hurt? And he's like, there is Shishi. Nah, I'm harder to kill than I thought. When I came to, I found myself drowning in the ocean. The ice must have melted in that inferno and swept me into the water. It was a while later when I found out you survived too. So it's like we're seeing basically what a lot of us thought it was anyway, where it was, you know, Saul, yeah, he's frozen by Kuzan with like the time capsule, ice time, whatever it is, where he's like freezing him in place. And then, you know, it's because of all the fire and everything that's going on the island, that's going to like melt some of the ice. And then apparently Saul like fell into the water, between all of the melting ice and everything else, like would rush him out to sea. Plus he was right by the ocean anyway. And waves and everything could have like carried him out a little ways. And then eventually he woke up and found his way back to O'Hara and everything. And then somehow got his way to Elbath, and then got, you know, some of the other giants to help him, including like Hybridine and his group. So we have that. And he's like, and it was like, yeah, it was a little while before I found out you survived too. So it was just like, Saul, for the first little bit, was under the impression that he was the only one who survived, and he's not even truly from O'Hara. And he takes it upon himself to then like take care of the books, to carry on what Olvia and Clover and everything left behind. And then he finds out that Robin's alive. And he's like, all those reports really ticked me off. They said such awful things about you. So there, he probably would have been like getting the paper at various points in time and reading about like, oh, there was a Nico Robin sighting on this island, or oh, she showed up in this town, or whatever the case is. And we have that. And Robin just kind of like bends down, and she's like, her lip probably quivers a little bit, but it's hard to tell. And she looks back at it and she's like, let's not focus on the dark stuff. Hey, Saul, aren't you going to praise me for being alive? And she like opens up her arms and she's like looking at him, and I love that because it is basically, this chapter basically proves that at various points in time throughout all of Robin's childhood, from everything after O'Hara all the way up through, even through with Crocodile, because like all the way through Enies Lobby, she still kept saying she wanted to die because she didn't think she deserved to live. She has this stuff. She's been called a demon all her life. A demon, a devil, whatever you want to call her. She's been called that all her life. She was even, she was an outcast even on O'Hara with her aunt and uncle and cousin and everything. And it was only the archaeologists that welcomed her in. And then they were all gone, and Olvia's dead. And she thought Saul was dead, who were the only people who ever showed her any kindness or love. And then she's just on the run for so long. And then even when she's kind of safe at various points, and then eventually with Crocodile, she's safe, but she can't just like relax and enjoy everything and just take it all in and everything like that as much as she would like. That didn't come until after Enies Lobby, after she's done the whole I want to live to the Straw Hats, I want to live, I want to, take me away from this place, take me back with you type of thing. That whole moment. And so it is very validating, but it's also, it's not surprising that Robin went to very dark places at various points throughout all of her childhood and everything in regards to feeling that she shouldn't be alive. And, like, that is something that, like, and Oda is so good at being able to touch on stuff like that and other moments where it's like this can connect back to, like, that moment combined with the year, you'll find friends who won't ever leave you, no one in this world is meant to be alone. That line from Saul, those kind of combine to show that, yes, Oda is kind of trying to do this message that, like, every life has a meaning, has purpose. Every life has value. No matter how alone you are, no matter how, distant you may be, your life has value. And given the fact that I've lost a cousin on both sides of my family to taking their own life, I very much wish that was something that a lot more people knew and were able to find out and connect to and hear. So there's that. So Robin's looking at her, and he's like slightly surprised by that, and then he's like, he starts, she starts crying, and he like pulls her closer, oof, right into his beard, which is kind of funny. And he's like, right, of course I am, a kid like you against the whole wide world. You did great staying alive, Robin. 22 long years. Thank you for being such a survivor. I'm so glad we're able to meet again after all this time. And he's holding her to him, and he's like hugging her, and I love that. I love this bit, but I also kind of want there to be a moment where like Robin does like her, Gigantafleur, like her big form, not like her demon form, but like her big form, and like just gets to hug Saul as like this giant freaking woman. I kind of want that to happen too. But like this part first, and then like later on have her like manifest this thing, and it was like this giant version of herself and like hug Saul that way. I would love that. So he's doing that, and we kind of cut back and we see Jinbei, Zoro, and Luffy are like watching from a distance, and like the rest of the Straw Hats are behind them, and we'll see their reactions in a second, but like they're watching from a distance as this is happening. And Robin is hugging Saul, and she's like smiling, and then she's like also remembering Professor, Mom, Saul, why am I the one who has to live? Because it's like Clover and Olvia had already proven themselves in trying to like go after their dream, go after this history. They had the choice in the matter. Saul had the choice in the matter. Robin didn't necessarily have the choice in the matter. And yet she kept going, and yes, praise Robin for getting this far. and for wanting to go even further. And she's like, she's thinking, it was like, I can't stand it. I want to die. And of course, we saw all of that at Enies Lobby with her willingly giving up herself for the Straw Hats because she finally found people that she wanted to protect. And that was the Straw Hats. She wanted to protect them. And now she's gone from there. She's moved on and worked on this. And she's gotten so much better. And now she's, when we saw it, at Wano, when she fought Black Maria, her, like, embracing this, like, yeah, if I'm a demon, then why, if everybody calls me a demon, then I'll just be a demon. And has her, Demonio Fleur and everything, for that. And then we cut to the last page, and, like, we see, like, Robin start to cry in the last panel, and then we cut to the last page, and she's just, like, bawling. And Saul is bawling the way that Oda is so good at drawing that. And she's like, I missed you so much, Saul, which is so appropriate. And he's like, there, she, I missed you too. And he's just like crying, which is like, please don't drown Robin in your tears, Saul. And he's crying, and then we cut back and read the last two panels of the chapter. And of course, like, Jinbei and Luffy and Zoro are like, they're just kind of watching this. And like, Luffy is like the last bit, and he's just like smiling because he's so happy for Robin and Saul and everything. And then like the rest of the crew are all just bawling their eyes out because they're so happy as well, which is just so adorable. I love it that, like, because, like, we've seen all of the Straw Hats cry. We've seen, like, we're seeing, 6 of them cry here. Robin's crying, so that's 7 of them. We've seen Luffy cry before when everything happened at, Sabaody, and then with Ace and everything, so we've seen that. And we've seen Zoro cry when he was a kid with losing Kuina, and then we saw him, like, cry again when he was, making his oath to Luffy after getting defeated by Mihawk. We've seen him cry there. I don't remember if we've seen Zoro cry at any other point in time, as far as I can remember. And then, like, Jinbei, I believe we saw Jinbei cry in the flashback with Fisher Tiger, because, like, I believe we saw him cry when Fisher Tiger was dying and revealing what had happened to him, and then I believe Jinbei was crying when he was at the funeral for Otohime, for that point in time. So, we have canonically seen all of the Straw Hats cry. It's just that a lot of them, most of the crew are much more inclined to cry at the drop of a hat. Luffy is, of course, embracing this as, like, this happy moment, and it's just, like, a tearful reunion, because, of course, it's just so happy of this reunion for Robin and Saul, and Luffy and the others are just so overjoyed for Robin, and I love that. I love that. And then we get, like, the little bit, One Piece will return on the 23rd, so we'll have another chapter out before Christmas, and then possibly one before New Year's. We'll see, I don't know. And then the next one will have a color spread, so that'll be fun. So I loved this chapter. I am so happy about this chapter. I think this chapter is just so good and so sweet. And, like, yes, there's the dark moments in it with Robin, which is understandable, but then it's just, like, so happy at the end. And, like, the next chapters are probably going to involve, like, Saul getting to meet all of the Straw Hats and everything, and he's maybe been collecting their bounty posters, too, once he found out that Robin was on their crew, so he wants to follow along with their stories. Maybe he's clipped newspaper articles that were not as detrimental to them or something. I don't know. And we'll hopefully get to go into the library to see where all of the books are that are left from Ohara. So we'll hopefully get to see that in the next couple of chapters. And then we'll eventually, Saul and the rest of them will then make their way back down to the tavern, hopefully before the end of the arc. Or the tavern party will just be like the end of the arc, maybe. I don't know. But we'll get to the tavern and we'll have, like, this big feast eventually. And they'll eat the giant moose dinosaur thing along with whatever the heck else the giants caught for them to eat. And then eventually we'll get back to everything that's happening with Loki and everything and all of that stuff. And the traveler and in the straw hat and everything that's on his way there. So we'll see. I don't know. My answer to that one is it's Shiki, it's Scopper, it's someone random else. I don't know. We'll find out. But sorry this video lasted longer than I intended it to. And now I have to go edit it and upload it. And then I have to make dinner. And then I at least get to relax for the majority of the evening. So that'll be nice. And then I get to relax a good chunk of tomorrow and part of Sunday. And then I work Monday again. So fun. So I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.